And as far as what do the muscles do, our thoughts usually stop with strength. So we're thinking about, okay, like how big are the muscles and how strong are the muscles? But there's so much more responsibility for the muscular system than just that. Welcome to the Exercise is Health podcast, where we're talking about exercise, health, and the interconnectedness of the two. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we will be coming to you every single week from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg. Hey, welcome back everybody to the Exercise is Health podcast. We're your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we are coming to you from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg in Schaumburg, Illinois. Now, at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, we believe your health is your most valuable asset. Your health is one of the biggest influencers of the quality and quantity of time that you have. And while there are many aspects of health, our expertise is exercise. Exercise has been proven time and again to not only improve your health, but also increase your longevity and improve your quality of life. And today we are talking to you about one of our specialties here at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, and that is muscle activation techniques. Now, this topic is so important for you as a listener to understand and for us as a host to discuss. Why? Because the muscular system is huge, not just in terms of the mass and the surface area of your body that it covers, but with its function and the multiple systems within your body that it can affect. When your muscular system is working better, it can have profound effects on so many other systems within your body. And unfortunately, the opposite is also true. When your muscular system is not working well, it can have negative effects on many other systems within your body. So we want to talk to you today about why it is so important to make sure that your muscular system is functioning well and stays maintained and tuned up through something like muscle activation techniques.
You know, this topic came up for you and I, Charlie, because we were talking to someone that we knew for probably 3 or 4 years now. And she said, you know, it just seems like you're a one-stop shop. And it was interesting because we really view ourselves not as a one-stop shop. You know, we do something very specific. We do muscle activation techniques and we do resistance training with personal training. But, you know, when anyone gives us feedback from our community, we really value that because as people that are creating this business, we view what we do very differently than outside people are viewing it. So it's really cool to get that feedback. Oh, people are thinking we're a one-stop shop. And we talked to this gal about this because, you know what? It is kind of confusing. Like, how are you able to cover so many aspects of the body and not be a one-stop shop? Well, just as Charlie said, I mean, think about your muscles. Where do muscles not live on your body? Like everywhere, right? Like from the tips of your toes, like we have muscle tests for every single toe, every single finger, little joints on your finger, goes up into your skull, all over your neck, your spine. Your spine is like crisscross muscles like crazy. Your muscles are everywhere on your body. And they have such an important role. And the problem here too is that we drastically underutilize the power that the muscle system can provide to our bodies in terms of how we're feeling, how we're functioning, how we're able to operate and perform, how we're not able to perform when we need to. And one of the reasons we really wanted to talk about this topic, that MAT is not a one-stop shop for everything that you do have, but MAT is a huge contributor to how your muscles are working, and the way your muscles are working is far, far, far underutilized in terms of building your body back up to where you want it to be, or getting your body to maintain and not lose strength and function. Because really, when we think about muscles right now, a lot of people that we talk to, and maybe you're included in this, when you think about the muscles, you think about physique, like how does someone look? And you think about strength, like how strong am I? How am I able to move stuff in my world? And I think that the muscle system is completely underutilized because we view the muscles as doing these two main things. The problem that Charlie and I have is that we work on the other side, servicing the muscle system, and many of our colleagues out there doing muscle activation techniques probably see this too, is that the muscle system contributes to our well-being in far more ways than you can probably ever imagine. The stuff Charlie and I see on the table every single day is mind-blowing and life-changing, and that's why we're so honored to get to do MAT. And also, we get the pleasure of getting to share this kind of information with you, because I don't know, Charlie, it seems like every week I have someone on the table like, oh, if I would have known about this 5 years ago, ... or wow, why didn't you tell me this treated this ... And part of it is, because MAT doesn't treat conditions, but the power of the muscle system is just completely underutilized. We're completely unaware of it, and it's not your fault. It's maybe the MAT community can start taking responsibility and educating and getting the word out there.
Well, that's such a great point, because when you think about, like you said, generally the role of muscles, we're kind of thinking about it in two ways. We're thinking about, well, how do the muscles look? And what, do the muscles do? And as far as what do the muscles do, our thoughts usually stop with strength. So we're thinking about, okay, like how big are the muscles and how strong are the muscles? But there's so much more responsibility for the muscular system than just that. I mean, we're talking about, in part, dictating or influencing somebody's posture. Yes, we're talking about output, how much force or tension can the muscles generate. We're talking about how well the joints and bones can move, so your mobility. We're talking about how well can you coordinate movements in addition to your central nervous system. We're talking about the stamina capabilities that you have. How long can you keep doing a task is in part dictated by how well the muscular system is working. How well can you breathe? So often we think about, breathing, I know breathing muscle is the diaphragm. It's like, no. Every single muscle that attaches to your ribs has the opportunity to help your ribs move, which means it has the opportunity to help you either inhale or exhale. So respiration is massively impacted by the muscular system. It helps your joints stay safer, stay protected, can help prevent injury by making sure that the soft passive tissues, things like ligaments that are surrounding the joints, don't get too stretched, can stay within their kind of pliable, safe length relationship. It can help people recover from different traumas that they've experienced, whether they be injuries or whether it's just using their body throughout the day. Hey, if your muscular system's working better, the everyday tasks that you're doing don't seem as stressful to your body as a whole because your body's better conditioned for it. So all of these things, and there's so many more, we're cutting this list short, but there are so many more things. But all of these things can be impacted in one form or another based on the function of the muscular system. And so we can definitely see where this person was coming from when they had the impression that what we do here at Muscle Activation Schaumburg is kind of this one-stop shop place. But the reality is the focus of what we do here is so narrow, it's so specific, but it's just on the one thing, or not maybe the one thing, but a thing that has the potential to affect so many other things within the human body that it seems outside looking in like it might be a one-stop shop, when really, as Julie was saying, in our heads, it's like, well, it's hard to get more specific than this and hard to get more like narrowed and niche than this. It's like one thing. But again, the power of that one thing is huge.
Now, often, Charlie, I love the list you gave, and help me rehash this as I go through it. When we say stuff like, hey, you should try MAT, this is what MAT does. It helps the muscles work better. And helping your muscles work better and contract more efficiently means you have better stamina, better joint stability. You prevent injury more. It helps you recover from injury. What were some other ones you gave? I liked your list.
Posture. Respiration.
Yes. And a lot of times we think, yeah, those things are really nice, but, I'm not an athlete, I'm just trying to be able to do the things I want to do. I just want to wake up in the morning and feel like, oh, I could go do any activity I want, or I don't have to think about it and study the stairs before I go up and down the stairs so I don't fall. And we know that these are your goals. And a lot of times when we bring out these words that may be related kind of to performance, I think it can get a little intimidating, almost like, wait, is this for athletes or for like regular people like me? And the problem is that not only are we seeing that the muscle system, the power of effective, efficient control of the muscle system is underutilized, is that it also is not often related to real life. It's often usually related to those people that really care about how their muscles are looking and functioning, which is usually athletes. And the biggest way, or the biggest population that MAT helps is you and me, regular population. Because when our muscles are contracting better, when our muscles are when they're each doing their own job, yes, stamina increases, performance increases, stability of joints increase, mobility of joints increase, prevention of injury happens, recovery from injury happens, posture improves. And all of these things are the things that make you feel and create the ability for your body to function the way you want it to. These are the direct things that relate to your body being owned by you, almost like you're able to do the stuff you want to do. And I think that's where the second disconnect comes, is like we don't relate this, oh, if my muscles get stronger, my knee will feel better and I can run better, or my knee will feel better and I can pick up my grandkid without limping afterwards, so we also have to start bridging that connection, because your body's ability to perform doesn't mean in a basketball game or in a professional football league. Your body's ability to perform means doing the things you desire to do, whether that is being the weekend warrior and running marathons and doing really strenuous things, or whether that means I'd like to live my life and not feel like my body's holding me back. I'd like to be able to get on my knees and grab something on the floor and get up and be fine with it. I'd like to be able to sleep on different types of beds, whether I'm traveling or not, and my body be able to handle that stressor or that situation, I guess is a better way to say it. So it totally relates to you and me, regular people, trying just to be able to utilize our bodies in the best way possible. So I did want to bring that up, because a lot of times when we start talking about muscle system, people are like, oh, I don't work out. I don't like to exercise. I don't need strong muscles. And I don't care if you want strong muscles or not. But what Charlie and I are saying is we want you to be able to use your body the way you want, whether that is for extreme things or just everyday things. And surprisingly, and probably not surprisingly, the majority of people that MAT specialists see are people like you and me. We're just trying to be able to utilize our bodies the way we want. And the muscle system has such a profound effect over our ability to do that.
That's such a great point, because so often the feedback that we hear from clients is, yes, they're able to do the more strenuous things better, but they're able to do the kind of mundane, everyday tasks that they didn't even realize were difficult. They're able to do those things better. Okay, so what do I mean by that? They're able to kind of reach to the back seat of their car easier. Something that, they do throughout their day, and maybe it wasn't necessarily painful or difficult, but it's like once their muscles get working better, they're like, oh yeah, that feels so much easier. Oh, it's so much easier to pick up the laundry basket off the floor. Oh, it's so much easier to reach up to the top shelf. And it's not like, to your point, these things were particularly strenuous or difficult or, super challenging to begin with. But all of a sudden, the muscle system starts working better, and you start realizing how much you're using your muscles throughout your entire day. I mean, think about it. From the moment you wake up until the moment you go to sleep, you are using your muscular system in some form or fashion. And to be honest, you're using your muscles while you're sleeping as well. So let's say all around the clock, 24/7, your muscular system is in demand. It is on call, ready for action. And if your muscles aren't working as well, that's a lot of stress is being placed upon your body, that your body's having to constantly figure out how to compensate around something, constantly figuring out how to, renegotiate what it is you're going to do in order to try to get the task done. And that's just a lot of stress for your body. And that can start to impact so many aspects of your daily life. And so by getting the muscular system working better, a lot of that stress can start to be relieved. A lot of that stress can start to go away because your muscles are used so often throughout your day. They're used all day, every day, whether you're sitting and watching TV. I think another common thing that we hear is, wow, I can sit at my desk for longer now. It's like I didn't even realize I was using my muscles when I was sitting at my desk. But now, instead of having to get up every 30 minutes because, my low back's tightening up, I can sit there and, I can bang out work for 3 hours, no problem. And we hear that constantly. When you get the muscular system working better, your body as a whole is going to start functioning better. And all the things that you didn't realize you were having to use your muscular system for are going to start to feel way easier.
One question Charlie and I get a lot, and I know all of our MAT colleagues across the nation get this too. What is making my muscles not work very well? I mean, and we get people all across the spectrum. They might say, well, I weight train, doesn't that keep it up? Or I don't weight train, doesn't that make sure it doesn't get overstressed? Or, I don't do very much, I'm sedentary. Why would, so we get all different viewpoints on this, but there are kind of 3 categories that we can think about when thinking about what stresses the muscles out so that they're not working very well. And the first one is, let's just go over it. So the 3 are overuse, misuse, and disuse. So let's dive into these a little bit. Overuse is when you're overusing your muscle system. So this might be you're exceeding the threshold that your body can handle or your muscles can handle before your muscles start not working well. Muscles, one of their big jobs is to protect ourselves, protect our bodies. So when the muscles are perceiving a stressor, an environment that is way over the top, over what they're used to, then oftentimes muscles can start operating less well. So examples of this might be you worked out too hard in the gym. It might be you ran a marathon and that was a lot. It can also be situational, meaning your body is stressed out. Maybe you're recovering from an illness, you had some mental emotional stress at work, at home. Maybe you're malnourished or you're undernourished, you're not eating very well. So your body is coming into a situation slightly more stressed than it normally is, or a lot more stressed than it normally is. And then you put a stressor on it, whether that is a workout or, just exploring a city or something. And that might be too much. It depends on how much your body can handle at that time. And we always like to acknowledge that every single day is different. That's why we're always telling our clients to listen to their bodies. The second would be misuse. So misuse of tissues. This is when you're using your body in an inappropriate way, or intentionally or not intentionally. So a good way to think about this could be using your body with poor form in a gym, like you've now injured yourself because you weren't. And that one can kind of be blended with overuse, because when you're not performing something in an appropriate way, that means some muscles are being really overused and some are probably being really underused in that motion. Another way that is unintentional way to misuse your body would be injury. You're taking joints into a place that they're not supposed to be. Think about spraining an ankle. That motion is not what an ankle should be doing. Mm-hmm. So that's a way to misuse. Or maybe you fall on ice. That's a misuse of your body. Or any other injury that may happen to your body. This is a misuse of the muscles and your body. And then disuse would be when people are not using routinely their muscles. Our muscles need to be used on a routine fashion to stay healthy. That's how muscles stay healthy, is by using them. So a lot of times we have to look at, are you underusing your muscle system? And sometimes this can be You can be overusing some muscles and underusing other muscles. So maybe you exercise, but you don't train in a balanced way. And a lot of people that don't exercise, number one, they're not using their muscles in a routine fashion, but they are using their muscles to get around in their day-to-day life, which is great. But that means it's also unbalanced. They're only using the muscles and the motions and the ranges of motions that they need. So disuse can also be a huge factor in being a stressor on muscles that make them function less. I think a lot of times when we think about stressors, we think about something that's been added, but it can also be something that's absent, right? The stimulus to muscle tissue can also keep muscles healthy.
So let's talk about kind of what some examples are as far as issues that we might see people coming in with to muscle activation Schaumburg, and that we've seen improvement with when getting the muscular system working better through muscle activation techniques. And I think one common one that we see people coming in with is a sprained ankle. Now, look, we're not here at Muscle Activation Schaumburg to address the sprained ankle, all right? That ankle needs to heal, all right? There are different processes that need to happen within the body itself in order to make sure that ankle gets back to health. But our job, once a person's been cleared for regular exercise, is to make sure that the ankle, the muscles that might help support and control the ankle are working well. And one thing that we commonly see with people when they come in after they sprain an ankle, after they've been cleared for regular exercise, is they might feel like they're at 80%, 90%, but there's a missing component there, okay? There's a missing component, and so, while yeah, they can work out, there's definitely not at 100%. Well, by getting the muscles working better that support the ankle, that would help to control the ankle, what we see is that, in fact, helps take stress off the ankle, and that last little bit of healing that needs to take place, that's then able to happen in a more supported environment with the muscular system working well. So there is tremendous benefit to once somebody's been cleared for regular exercise, like after they've had an injury and they go through their therapy and they're cleared for regular exercise, coming in to make sure that the muscles that would help support the healing of that area are doing their job well. Because like we talked about earlier, if the muscles are not doing their job well, are not able to support that area, two things might happen. One, they may be at a greater risk for re-injury. Number two is the last little bit of healing that needs to take place, that might be delayed because the joints and the passive tissues like the ligaments are not as well supported by the muscular system.
Charlie, you gave that as a really good example of recovering from injury, but I'm going to share a little bit about you and I, something we share, that in our past we have been chronic ankle sprainers. And I know a handful of you listening probably have also been labeled as chronic ankle sprainers, and you have probably been told, my ligaments are stretched out down there, blah, 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 blah. And what's so interesting is I am no longer a chronic ankle sprainer. Are you?
No.
I don't think so. I'm barely ever touching your feet anymore with MAT. And you know what's really interesting is when the muscles of your ankle, in anywhere really, but again, we're using this as a specific example, are functioning better, my body can handle the forces of spraining the motion of spraining the ankle. So a lot of you guys still know I'm still a dancer, and I still do the motion of spraining my ankle, meaning I step weird, everyone sees it and gasps, and they're like, are you okay, Julie? And then I put my weight back on the foot and I'm like, yeah, I feel great, ready to go. And so what this is showing is that and trust me, I've had a lot of work on my feet, a ton of work on my feet, is that now my body can handle the stressor of rolling it out, recovering back to neutral, and being fine. I don't have the response of inflammation and now tissues have been overstressed. That's no longer a misuse of my muscle system for that instance. It's like I can handle it. And Charlie, I don't think you really roll yours that much. You have less mobile ankles than I do, but just, you know, it's funny. We think, oh, when you have mobile ankles, you're the sprainers, and the people that don't have mobile ankles, you're not the sprainers. But you know what? Charlie sprained his ankle quite a bit, and he has the least mobile feet I have ever seen. So just being able to tolerate the forces is what will create the ability for your body to not get injured from motions like that. Another one that we see, that we'll stick with the feet, we'll do one more foot one, is plantar fasciitis. This is a diagnosed condition. Your doctor would have had to tell you had this, although I think a lot of us go on WebMD and diagnose ourselves. So it's an inflammation of the tissue and the arch of your foot, and it can also be symptomatic going to your heel and then sometimes up into like your Achilles tendon area. So it kind of wraps around the heel and under the foot. Now, this is an example of passive tissue, the fascia, plantar fascia, tolerating more stress than it's supposed to, tolerating more forces than it's supposed to. When we can get the muscles engaging better to alleviate stressors from this passive tissue, the passive tissue isn't tolerating too much anymore. And this is actually the thing that got me into MAT. Because I struggled with plantar fasciitis, and many of my clients do too, and they don't have the symptoms anymore because the muscles are supporting what they're supposed to support. Because when muscles are failing, what happens is passive structures start taking over. Your discs take over, your ligaments take over, your fascia takes over. Something's going to take over. I mean, when your muscles aren't working, your body doesn't literally fall apart. Something takes the stressors, and those areas that take on the stressors are usually the ones that feel kind of crappy and kind of cruddy. So again, MAT isn't treating or fixing plantar fasciitis. What we're doing is saying, hey, the healthiest thing here is if muscles are all doing their job and contracting well. And what happens is when we are able to reinstill that in someone's body, those passive tissues, in this instance the plantar fascia, gets alleviated of a ton of stress.
Another one that we commonly see kind of moving up the body is scoliosis. People come in with, varying degrees and severity of scoliosis, and it's sometimes something that has been there their entire life. Sometimes it's something that has developed more recently. Also, the thing about scoliosis, remember, is it's a description of posture. It's a description of, yes, how the curvature of the spine is at that moment, which essentially is an alignment of bones, which is posture. Okay, so remember, the muscular system can have a tremendous influence over your posture. Why is that? Well, muscles are the things that move bones, all right? And when you're talking about posture, you're more or less talking about how the bones are positioned at that moment in time. Well, if the muscles start working differently, they have the opportunity to move the bones into different positions, thereby changing the position the bones are in and changing the posture overall. And this is something that we see a lot with scoliosis. We see sometimes kind of immediate changes when it might be deemed more of what's called a functional scoliosis, where the muscular system may not have been working well and may not have been working well for an extended period of time. And because of that, the structure itself started shifting its position. And then by getting the muscular system working better, the structure starts shifting its position back to how it was. And a really neat story about this, we had a client come in, and the client had gotten x-rays done of their spine, and it showed a scoliotic curve. Well, after coming to MAT sessions for a number of months, the client went back and got x-rays on their spine again. And it showed that the spine looked perfectly straight. Like there was no scoliotic curve to speak of. And it's not that the shape of the bones changed, okay? So if it's a structural scoliosis, meaning the shape of the bones is such that a scoliotic curve exists, that's something completely different. But with this person, the shape of their bones didn't change, but the alignment of the bone changed. Well, why do bones change their position? In part, or one option, is because the muscles that are pulling on the bones, the muscles that are positioning their bones, are changing how well they're working. And when muscles start working better, they can move bones into what may be a more preferable alignment. And as such, something like a scoliosis that's maybe more of a functional scoliosis in nature may have the opportunity to start to shift to a less of a scoliotic curve. And that's just a really neat change that we see actually quite frequently here with our clients.
You know, a lot of times people will come in too and tell us their diagnosis as a reason that they can't get better. For example, scoliosis. Like, well, I've been diagnosed with scoliosis, so, there's no way that this is going to help me. Or I've been diagnosed with arthritis somewhere, and, I don't know how the muscles will help me. But also remember that the muscles are the thing that are going to help control those joints to the best of their ability. So if they're doing 50% of their job, you're going to feel that. You're going to feel, wow, I do have some severe arthritis. I do have severe scoliosis, and that's why my back is hurting, or that's why my knee is hurting all the time. What we see all the time is that when we can help the muscle system manage themselves better, manage the joints they cross better, whether it lives in your spine or lives in your knee or lives in your hip, then those joints start functioning better and feel better because everything in that area is doing their job, whether you have a healthy joint there or a compromised joint. So even if, you come in and you have scoliosis and your spine doesn't straighten out, your muscles will be better able to manage that curve, better able to manage the stressors that come with that curve. So another one we see a lot of shoulder stuff, a lot of elbow stuff, wrist stuff, and one huge one is tennis and golfer's elbow. And this is when people are having symptomatic things they call it their elbow. Sometimes it is truly in their elbow, and sometimes it's just overuse and stress of the radius's relationship to the ulna. So those are the two bones that live in your forearm. What we find here is that because of the overuse of these tissues, some muscles are being overstressed. When we use something like muscle activation techniques and we can re-engage muscles that are being underused relative to those overused ones that are being overstressed, we can rebalance all the pulling and tugging that your muscles are required to do inside your body to make sure that your wrist can rotate and your elbow can rotate. We've seen a ton of success with this in terms of tennis players, golf players, but also people that type all the time. And something that's near and dear to my heart, people that use little tiny instruments like dentists, helping their hands and wrists and elbows feel a lot better and a lot stronger, because we know that surgeons and dentists and people doing that, like probably artists as well, are really using those fine, tiny muscles over and over and over and over again all the time.
So here's the bottom line. Even with structural issues, even with issues in the passive tissues, those areas can still be supported and often likely need to be supported by the muscular system. What this means is if the muscles are not working well, those structural issues, the issues with the passive tissues, they're likely going to be more exacerbated than they otherwise would if the support of the muscular system was higher or fully intact. Likewise, if the muscular system is working better, the structural issues, the issues with the passive tissues, those symptomatically, those from a function standpoint, those from what we might see outside looking in, those issues may start to calm down. And it's not that the structural issue has gone away. It's not that the issue with the passive tissue has gone away, but because the function of the muscular system is now higher, because the muscular system is now able to do its job better, which is supporting the joints, supporting the passive tissues, helping to move and position the bones. Now, all of a sudden, all the things that seemed like really big structural issues, seemed like really big passive tissue issues, those things kind of calm down some because they're being better supported by the muscular system. So to bring this full circle, outside looking in, it might look like what we're doing at Muscle Activation Schaumburg is kind of a one-stop shop for, health and function and performance. And the reality is there are so many influencers to health and function and human performance. And what we are looking at is just one of these variables, one of these influencers, which is the muscular system. It just happens to be that the muscular system can have a massive impact over somebody's health, function, and performance. And so because of that, we see that when the muscular system is working better, people as a whole are working, feeling, functioning way better than they otherwise were. Well, hey, thank you so much for tuning in. We always appreciate your time, attention, and focus to us as we're talking about something that we are extremely passionate about. But who do you know that needs to hear our message? Who do you know that might be dealing with something that we talked about today, whether it be a structural issue, a passive tissue issue, and they've tried everything to address these issues and they don't feel like they're at 100%. Share this podcast with them because this message may resonate in that, hey, the muscular system, that might be that last missing piece that they need to find before everything gets brought back up to full speed with their body. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.